How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. This week is going to be absolutely massive for Bitcoin. There are a lot of people that are in the know right now that are saying that, and we already know that there's a big purchase of Bitcoin that's going to be announced in the next day. It's going to be most likely billions and billions of dollars. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this one. By the way, if you do want to trade crypto, there's a link underneath the video to CoinW. There you can trade all different kinds of assets using leverage, and you can start in just a few minutes. They're non-KYC right now, and you don't need a VPN to access them. And there are some links to other exchanges underneath the video as well in case you want to try those out, like BTCC and Blofin. I like having multiple exchanges, so if you haven't already signed up for CoinW, I would try it out. Now, as we can see, Bitcoin looks really good. Right, we broke over 100, went up to 104, came back down to 92, bounced right back, and now we're sitting right around $100,000. This is actually extremely bullish. Keep in mind, a month ago, right after the election, or right during the election, so November 5, Bitcoin was sitting around $66,000. A few weeks before that, we were in the 50,000s. So we are looking extremely bullish. And as you can see, it does look like we're flipping this kind of point of resistance around 99,000 into support. We're bouncing off of this region pretty consistently. So the fact that we're pulling back to 98,000 on Bitcoin is extremely bullish. Now, we'll get to some of the bullish things right now in Bitcoin, but just be careful. Cardano Foundation, I talked about this in the last video, was hacked on Twitter. Be careful because there are a lot of scammers out there, people that impersonate me. I know that they happen, but I literally can't flag enough of them on all the different platforms. So you have to be self-sufficient. You have to be careful of these kinds of hacks. Thomas from Hey Apollo says 90% allocation to Bitcoin makes sense for most people under 30. 30% allocation makes sense for most billionaires. 5% makes sense for most countries' sovereign wealth reserves. This is extremely interesting. The fact is, if you had, let's say, 30% allocation right now, and billionaires and normal people move to these allocations, you'd probably be at 90% allocation because Bitcoin would spike up in price. I do think that it makes sense for younger people to be pretty heavy on Bitcoin. I was actually talking to someone, shout out to Isaiah if you're watching this. I was talking to someone recently who was talking about literally going and, refinancing a few things to be able to buy more Bitcoin. And in certain situations, I think it makes sense. If you have a long enough time horizon, depending on the interest rates and all that kind of stuff, you just have to be careful, right? If you have a job where you can maintain that and you can continue to stack more Bitcoin, but you have to be a little bit careful. A lot of it comes down to the individual. Can they mentally withstand that? I do not suggest that to most people. Like if someone comes to me and says, how do I get more Bitcoin? I would never suggest that because if they're not already thinking about it, then it can get pretty dicey. Of course, everyone's got their own situation, so I'm not going to say to do that. But BlackRock has said, mathematically, it makes sense to be over 100% Bitcoin. Go out and get some leverage to buy Bitcoin. That's what a research paper that they put out a few years ago said. Dennis Porter says, this week will be huge. Okay. Just hinting at a few things. Earlier this week, he said, next week, there will be an announcement that will fundamentally shift the dialogue around Bitcoin. No one is ready for what's coming. One of the largest economies in the world is poised to win with Bitcoin. 2 huge mainstream outlets already agreed to cover it. It's that big. Now, I don't think this is necessarily that some country is already buying or is going to start buying. I'm guessing it's legislation that they want to buy and then it has to get approved. So who knows who knows what comes out and who knows whether it gets approved. But the fact that there are politicians from different countries all around the world that are looking at this, passing legislation to do this kind of thing, I think is extremely bullish. We also know that just in a few days, Microsoft shareholders are set to decide on the firm's Bitcoin investment proposal. Now, I believe, from what I remember, I have not double checked this, but I believe that actually they're set to decide on whether they want the company to do more research into Bitcoin. They're having a vote on whether they should look into it deeper. So I could be wrong on that, but I don't think it's to make them actually buy Bitcoin. Still, either way, it will give us an idea for how people are looking at Bitcoin from a large institution standpoint and into individual investors. I'm not expecting them to go out and buy Bitcoin or even to maybe even approve this. The fact is, I think Microsoft's a little bit of a slower mover compared to Tesla, where Tesla bought Bitcoin 4 years ago. They're an early adopter into a lot of technologies. Elon is a trailblazer. Microsoft seems to go a little bit slower. So I don't have big expectations out of this, but I do think it would make sense for a lot of these big tech companies to at least buy some Bitcoin, have it on their balance sheets. It's not going to hurt them. They're massive companies with massive cash flows, but it could help overall. Saylor is going to buy more Bitcoin. He's going to announce it tomorrow. The last 4 weeks, maybe it's 3 weeks, the last 4 weeks in a row, every single week he said that he needs another green dot. There's too much blue on the Saylor tracker, basically saying, yeah, we're coming out and buying more Bitcoin. And they've bought 2 billion Bitcoin, 3 billion Bitcoin, 5 billion Bitcoin, 5 billion Bitcoin. I think those are the numbers. They could be jumbled a little bit in the timing of it, but they've bought around 10 to 15 billion Bitcoin in the last month. Some people saying this trade is the hottest trade on Wall Street. That's actually what the All In podcast said the other day. People are going after it, trying to get their hands on some of these bonds, and that's why they keep on having upsized offerings. That's why Mara and some other companies are now also issuing more shares, getting more debt, issuing these senior convertible notes to buy more Bitcoin. There's so much demand for it. There are some people saying be cautious. Whenever there's a trade like this that seems to go so well, you have to approach it with caution, which I understand. The fact is there is a premium. So even if MicroStrategy is always solvent, right? Even if they never go bankrupt, never get called or have any issues, the fact is their premium can get smaller. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I think it will sit around a 2 to 3x premium for the most part, but there will be times where it's overvalued and undervalued compared to its Bitcoin. I think of it kind of as a call option. When Bitcoin does really well, their premium will go up. When Bitcoin's price goes down, the premium will go down. Last cycle, we actually had a premium that was below 1 because people were worried that Saylor was going to get called on debt, that they were going to go bankrupt and stuff like that, so they weren't even willing to buy it for less than the price of the Bitcoin. I think things always change though. So next cycle, we'll probably get less of that, where maybe it's priced at, let's say we do have a full-on bear market where Bitcoin falls down 70% or something like that. I think MicroStrategy might be priced at like 1.1 times their Bitcoin or something, instead of actually a discount to their net asset value. That's what we typically see over time. It's just less volatile moves. People understand the stock better. They understand the upside better during a bull market. So that way, during a bear market, they're more likely to buy. We have a lot of important economic data coming out this week as well. Last week, we had all that job info. This week, we have core CPI on Wednesday. Then Thursday, we have PPI and core PPI. We have import price indexes on Friday. But yeah, everyone's going to be watching these numbers, the inflation numbers. We're expecting about a 0.3% on core PPI or core CPI, and it doesn't show. We're just expecting the year over year on CPI to be 2.7%. Then PPI we're expecting to be 0.2%. So we're expecting 0.2 to 0.3 on everything. So be ready for a little bit of volatility. Be ready for some volatility if we actually get some big news this week. I would be expecting big news. I think every week we're seeing big news. So with the exception of holidays, be ready for some big news. And on holidays, we expect some big volatility too, because there's not quite as much volume in the market. If you want to see some of my old videos, I'll put one up here. If you want to trade crypto, there's a link to CoinW. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next one.